Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of NEWSWAVE, written, produced and recorded in the heart of Cornwall by the team here at Chaos Radio. I'm your host, Tom Howe, and I'll be guiding you through some of the insightful guests and exciting news content that we've enjoyed across Chaos Radio this past week. On today's show, we join Jason and Gwen Bradby, volunteers from Coeliac UK, who are helping to build a supportive local community for those living with celiac disease and gluten intolerance through monthly meetups at Parr Garden Centre. We check in with Simon Perry from the Roseland Environment Action Community Team, otherwise known as REACT, who joins us to discuss how the group's new charitable status will help support ongoing environmental projects across the Roseland Peninsula. We hear from Adrian Brown from SANS, who, during Baby Loss Awareness Week, is here to talk about the charity's vital support for families affected by baby loss and how we can all help make a difference. And we welcome Doug Alsop, race director and committee member of the St Austell Running Club, who shares details about the 15th edition of the Eden Marathon and Half Marathon coming up later this month.
NEWSWAVE.
First this week, though, I was delighted to be joined again by Jason and Gwen Bradby, volunteers from Coeliac UK, who are helping build a supportive local community for those living with celiac disease and gluten intolerance through monthly meetups at Parr Garden Centre. They're here to share more about their work, the impact of the first events, and how they're helping families navigate life without gluten.
NEWSWAVE.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us back. It's much appreciated. So we're volunteering for Coeliac UK, and we hold monthly meetings over in Parr Garden Centre. And it's for people that are diagnosed with celiac disease or have an intolerance against gluten to come along and share their stories, ask questions, get advice. It's free to come along. It doesn't cost anything. Just grab yourself a coffee and just enjoy a chat. And it's about building a community, really.
Absolutely. Right. For people that aren't aware, or for people that might need a bit of a refresher, can you just detail very quickly what celiac is? What does it mean?
Yeah, of course. So celiac disease is a disease that's caused by proteins in gluten that causes antibodies to attack the immune system. And the only cure for it is to have a gluten-free diet for the rest of your life. So as long as you have a gluten-free diet for the rest of your life, then you can live perfectly happily and comfortably and enjoy delicious cakes, as you well know.
Absolutely right. And you guys have got together to do something incredible, haven't you? You've started local meetups here in the St Austell area, and we're now just a few days away from your second one. Let's talk about your first event. How did it go? How many people were there? What kind of feedback did you have? What kind of atmosphere was there?
Yeah, it was great. We had 25 people to our first meetup, and they ranged from ages between 4 and 74. And we had people from Tavistock and Launceston all the way down to Falmouth. So it was really good. The feedback from the people that came along said it was very beneficial, and it was nice to sort of talk to other people that have gone through the similar experiences, and hear lots of different stories and lots of things that sort of make you feel humble. So like a little boy, he was very young when he was first diagnosed, and they thought possibly it could be cancer, and it turned out to be celiac disease, and believe it or not, his parents were so glad it was celiac disease. And he told a lovely story about how he went to play school, and they replaced all of the pasta and all of the Play-Doh from regular to all gluten-free, so that he could play safely and do all his art projects and things with the other children. So it's just thought that's wonderful to hear that actually happens in the community. And on the other side of it, we heard a young lady going to her school prom at 16, and she asked the school about what they can do for her, because obviously she was diagnosed with celiac disease, and they said to contact the venue. So she contacted the venue, and unfortunately they couldn't cater for her, so she ended up having to take her own food to her own prom, which was not such a nice story, but that's kind of what we get, as you well know.
I know, especially since I was diagnosed, getting on 10 years almost. I don't want to admit that, but almost 10 years. The advancements are incredible, but there is still work to be done, isn't there, in certain places?
Scientists are always trying to look for ways to help with the disease, so there might be in future and in years to come you might be able to take a tablet that will enable us not to leave such a gluten-free diet. Cross-contamination obviously is a big thing when you go out. So still, would need to follow a gluten-free diet, but if you had a little bit of cross-contamination, we might be able to live with it better. But obviously that's a long, long way away, and it may never come in our lifetimes, although you're younger than me.
We shall see. So yeah, there is a huge amount of great work going on, but like we said, there is always going to be things that we could do better or we could look at differently. And that story of the school prom, that's one thing there. I suppose the little boy as well being sort of misdiagnosed beforehand as well, putting unbelievable stress on the parents, and we'd love to see more people coming together to share these things as well, these experiences, because it is a challenge for people to go through, but it doesn't need to be the end of the world and things like that, does it? There is a way forward. You can live a very happy lifestyle, can't you?
Oh, definitely. And it's like you say, it's all about building a community, so that the parents of that young boy, they came along to the event mainly because they were hoping that there'd be someone similar to their son's age, that they can have shared experiences. So we are quite keen now to going forward with our second and third and fourth meetups in the next few months, to sort of encourage people with younger children to come along and hopefully to get some advice and help and support from people their own age, really.
They can then support the other parents and give help and advice on what they've done for their children, because I think that was what that couple, they wanted to come along for support and just find out how they've navigated this for their child. So yeah, it's all about just like sharing experiences together.
Absolutely right. And now you two, you're dressed almost perfectly for the next one, because I understand there's a Halloween theme and you've got the lovely orange Coeliac UK t-shirt, so you're almost halfway there already. Maybe just a mask or something. When is your next event and what are you going to be talking about? I gave away a little bit of a spoiler there.
Yeah. So our next event's on Saturday the 11th of October at Park Garden Centre, and what we're going to be talking about, obviously all the other things we talked about, sharing experiences, but having about how to navigate Halloween safely. So we've been busy going around and looking at sweets and things that the children can have if you wanted to trick-or-treating and things. And so just so they feel inclusive as well, because that's the main thing really, is feeling inclusive for everybody. And
just a reminder of where that is, when that is, and how people can get in touch with you as well before we move on to the next subject.
Yeah, so it's Saturday the 11th of October between 10 and 11:30 in the morning. Parr Garden Centre, which is on Parmore Road in Parr. No need to book, you just come along and we'll be there, bright orange t-shirts, and grab yourself a coffee, and we'll have a nice warm welcome from us, that's for sure. And and we can talk about anything, like I say, but just a talking point for this, because it's Halloween quite soon and obviously bonfire night, we can then just talk about how to navigate safely, really. That's what we hope for, and we just hope to be there to support others, really. And hopefully they'll all come back, but people's got busy lives and they might not be able to make every month, but hopefully we'll have some new people come along on the 11th. There's lots of parking and accessible parking. It's all on the flat. There's loads of items on the menus and things to choose from that are all gluten-free. A large percentage of the menu has gluten-free items, so you can feel safe if you are worried about that.
It's a really great place. There was lots of space, lots of tables, and we sort of like took over a little corner of the little cafe. So yeah, I mean, it's great. You don't just have to come along as well, speak to us. You can also visit the garden centre and go along and buy yourself a plant. So yeah.
So all the details you can find on Coeliac UK, so that's coeliac.org.uk. But we do have some future events. If you can't make on the 11th of October, then we've got the 22nd of November, the 10th of January, and then for all those people that want to celebrate Valentine's Day,
yes.
And we've got the 14th of February.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Right, so there's also an event coming up closer to us. In our first interview before your first session, we talked about how sort of opportunities and events and meetups were quite limited in this area, but actually next month we're going to see a Coeliac UK event coming to the southwest. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so Coeliac UK are holding a gluten-free food market, and it's going to be held in Torquay in the Riviera International Centre. And they've got two sessions, a morning session between 10 a.m. and 12:30, and an afternoon session between 2 and 4:30. And tickets only cost £4. And you can come along, and they've got all the suppliers, major suppliers, from Tesco's and all the people that make the breads and gluten-free products, and you can sort of look at all of that. They've also got a couple of authors coming along to do book signings. We don't get many things like this down here. It's normally sort of Bristol's probably some of the closest sometimes with the food festivals and things like that. So if there is a load of people from Cornwall and Devon that go along and they see the map people, then it's going to make those things happen closer to us.
Yeah,
so we don't have to travel so much. So
definitely right.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, I'm Tom Howe and you're listening to NEWSWAVE here on Chaos Radio. I was also joined in the studio this week by Simon Perry from the Roseland Environment Action Community Team, better known as REACT, a grassroots group working to protect and enhance the natural environment across the beautiful Roseland Peninsula. Now, REACT has just been granted charitable status, becoming a charitable incorporated organisation, and continues to lead on a number of inspiring local projects, from tree planting and thermal imaging to marine conservation and water quality monitoring.
NEWSWAVE.
Simon, for anyone who hasn't come across REACT before, can you just tell us what the group is all about and what you're working to achieve as well, please?
Okay, nice to talk about it. Yes, REACT, it's quite an easy name to remember, but it actually is an acronym which stands for Roseland Environment Action Community Team, which is quite a mouthful, so you can imagine most people just simply refer to it as REACT. We're trying to combat some of the local environmental issues that we have here on the Roseland in particular. The group was set up in 2019, and it was a group of interested residents plus a few parish councillors. Particularly important was a chap called Richard Cochrane, who was associate professor of renewable energy at Exeter University at Penryn, and he lived locally. And he and others were really keen to address some of the issues raised by climate change. Cornwall Council declared a climate emergency. And I think the other thing, as well as climate change we're concerned about, is there's an increasing number of other local environmental issues, particularly to do with loss of nature, the ecology emergency that some people refer to it as. So yeah, that's the range of things that we're involved with. Oh, one other thing I think I might say is, in terms of our getting people involved, I remember many years ago there was a phrase used by a number of environmentalists, which was think globally, act locally. So it's about the bigger picture, the global picture, what you can do locally, and I think that really sums up a lot of what REACT is trying to do.
Congratulations are in order as well, because REACT is now officially a registered charity. What does that change mean for the organisation, the area, and your supporters as well?
Yes, it's been a process getting to it. We're now a CIO, which is a charitable incorporated organisation, which is I think a simplified version of a charity for a small organisation like ourselves. But yeah, we're delighted that we've just heard that we're now registered with the Charity Commission. What it means, I think, is that we can look at clarifying what our objectives are. We've had to really formulate our objectives and our mission going forward. It does change the structure a bit, because instead of just being a loose group of supporters, we now have trustees. So I'm one of 8 trustees who manage the group, but the supporters, the associate members that we call them, are just as important, and they will do a lot of the groundwork for us. I think it will hopefully raise our profile. I mean, the fact you've invited me in today because of it is quite useful for us. And hopefully it means we'll be able to apply for grants and possibly look at drawing down more funding, which I think is important for some of our projects.
Absolutely right. And you're involved in such a diverse range of projects, aren't you? I was doing a little bit of research before the interview, and I can see marine conservation, thermal imaging, tree planting, water quality monitoring, and even some educational work now with local schools. Could you just give us a bit of an overview of what's happening for you at the moment?
I'm actually got involved because of the practical side of things. So although I'm now a trustee and involved in a lot of the administration organisation, my passion is for the practical things. Just to give you an example of 3 things I'm involved with. One is our local tree nursery, which we've developed in Verrian in association with the school there. and we are growing trees mainly from locally collected seeds. So we're talking about local trees for local places, rather than them coming down from up country. About 200 or 300 trees, quite small scale, 200, 300 trees a year. And then we're going out and planting those, often in association with other groups. So National Trust, for example, we've supported some of their planting locally. We've worked with each of the schools doing that tree planting as well. And another project a few of us are involved with is water monitoring. So looking at the quality of our streams and rivers. That came out of a fantastic film. We've been showing films produced by Cornwall Climate Care. It's a series of 8 or 9 films which we've shown in Porthscatho. And there was one on water quality called Down the Drain. And as a result of that, we've for the last year, we've been monitoring the quality of water in Pendow Stream. Now, that's only one small stream, but having got involved, I think the idea is to try and roll that out to other watercourses. For example, the Fowl coming down off the clay country and down through Grandpound and Tregony. And it's quite an important river, and we do know that there have been issues to do with water quality there. Very much in the news, of course. Water companies and big dividends and sewage pollution. So it's something we're doing. And the data that we do on a monthly basis, we send in to a regional database. So there's about 1,000 sites in the southwest that are recording. And then the final thing, the thing I'm most excited about at the moment, is that we're just about to take on the lease of a small wildflower patch, not far from your studios here. And that's been a great collaborative involvement. It was something set up with Wild Roseland locally a few years ago on a patch of farmland owned by Cornwall Council. Unfortunately, Wild Roseland weren't in a position to take on the lease. But now, as a charity, one of the advantages is that we are able to sign a legal lease with Cornwall Council. So over the next few months, we're going to get that done, and we're going to get back into the meadow and further develop it for wildlife. Great opportunity for volunteers. Come and learn to scythe. Come and do some wildflower seed sowing. That's something I'm particularly excited about.
Wonderful. One thing that I was particularly taken aback by is you're looking ahead to the future. You're working with schools, including Roseland Academy. How important is it to organisations like React? And when we're talking about environmental action and associated kind of things, to involve young people, and what kind of response have you had from them so far?
Yeah, I think it is really important. We tend to be, unfortunately, the most active React volunteers tend to be from an older generation like myself. Perhaps we have more time. There's a few retired people there. But we are concerned about the future for our children and for our grandchildren. And I think being able to pass on that information and educate young people is really important. And they respond really well. So in the past, we've done particularly a lot of tree planting. 3 of the local schools, Verrian, Tregony and Gerrans schools, have all worked with us on tree planting, both within their grounds and in their community. So we're trying to expand what we can do with the local primary schools. But as you say, perhaps the most exciting development is we've managed to make some really good contacts with the academy. And the start of that was a workshop or series of workshops which we funded through a legacy from our founder. Unfortunately, Richard, I mentioned earlier, died at a very young age a couple of years ago, and there was a fund of money in his memory, and we're starting to use that on educational projects. So the first thing we did in July was to support a very passionate advocate of environmental change and concern for the climate, called Amy Bray. Now, Amy is a recent graduate of the university in Penryn, and herself has set up a charity going in and working with schools. So we've been able to support that, and I think it's allowed us to talk to those Year 9 students, and hopefully we're planning to get some of them and some of the other youngsters at the school out involved in some of our local projects.
What about anyone listening who wants to get involved themselves, whether that's maybe they're volunteering, joining one of your groups that you've got going on, or just sort of staying informed about what's going on in the local area and maybe finding an opportunity for themselves in the future, what's the best way to stay in touch with yourselves or get in touch, and what roles might be available at the moment?
Yes, I'm really keen that we get more people. We've got about 100 supporters who receive regular emails from us. Doesn't mean that they all come out and get involved, but they're kept up to date with what's going on. It's free to be a associate member. There's no cost. We want to be inclusive to anybody, and it can be people from outside our area. But I do need to stress that as a Roseland-based charity, the work that we do needs to be focused on the 5 parishes of the Roseland, and including Tregony, where obviously the school is. Roles, well, it's whatever you can offer, really. If you've got enthusiasm and time, then we're welcome you with open arms. I think as long as you've got an interest in the environment and making a difference, then you're very welcome. Some people come and get involved with just one project. Some come to our meetings and engage that way. We've had a whole mass of people coming to our film shows. We want to expand that, because at the Harbour Club in Porthscatho, we've been able to show 4 of these super local films involving local people. And we get 50 or 60 people cramming in to the Harbour Club to watch and to take part in discussions. So some of those people, we only see at the films. That's great. Any involvement you can do helps. 2 things perhaps I'd quite like to push at the moment, which are new. Richard Cochrane, our late and great founder, was very much involved in renewable energy projects. And we had a feasibility study to put solar panels on rooftops, on farms and other establishments around the Roseland, trying to provide local sourced energy for local people and reducing energy costs, which I know is important to a lot of people. Unfortunately, the feasibility study at the time suggested that it wasn't right financially to go forward with that project. But we are revisiting that. We are looking again at the data. We don't have the expertise that Richard offered. So if there's anybody out there with a technical expertise in renewable energy and wants to offer some support to a potential renewal of that project, that would be great. And also on energy, and energy is obviously important when we're talking about climate change, on a simpler stage, we're trying to offer local people who might be interested in making changes. For example, they might be interested in putting solar panels in, they might be interested in battery storage, maybe heat pumps, maybe trying to get grants for insulation in their property. We're trying to do a bit of matchmaking, because we've got members who have got those facilities in their properties. And rather than people contacting a supplier who's going to try and sell them something, we're wanting to do an open house. We're saying, look, I've got this, come and see what we've done, come and find out what some of the problems are, what some of the advantages are. So if there's anybody who's got all that sort of technical stuff set up and would like to invite people to see their property, or alternative, they're considering doing it themselves, again, get in touch. I could tell you how to get in touch. I haven't mentioned that, have I? Do you want me to do that?
That would be quite important, yes, please.
Yeah, well, we've got, we're redeveloping our website at the moment. There are forms to fill in that you can contact us directly through the website. Relaunched our Facebook page only this week, which will have up-to-date information on what's happening and what's going to happen. And again, you can message us through Facebook. And if you want to email, the easiest email is communications, with an S, communications@react.org.uk.
Just before we do let you go, and we do very much hope that you'll join us again in the weeks and months to come to keep us up to date on the projects you've mentioned and perhaps future ones as well. It's all rather exciting. Before you go, though, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that you maybe haven't covered just yet, or anything you want to go to in more detail?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that I'm sure your listeners will be well aware of environmental issues that we're faced with through the media all the time, and I would say some misinformation that they will receive, dare I say, from politicians both home and, without mentioning names, abroad. And I think it's quite clear this year, with the long, very nice, but very long summer that we've had, warm summer we've had, I personally came across open fires on moorland on bombing more. We know of the increasing storms that we're getting on our coastline here. There are issues, and I would say you don't have to join REACT, you don't have to be a member of an environmental organisation, but if you can become more aware and you can take some individual action, then collectively we can make a difference.
NEWSWAVE.
Every day in the UK, 13 babies die shortly before, during, or soon after birth. It's a heartbreaking reality that affects thousands of families each year, including my own. SANS offers vital support to anyone affected by pregnancy or baby loss, while also working to improve things like bereavement care, fund life-saving research, and campaign for change. I'm joined now by Adrian Brown from SANS to talk about the incredible work they do, how they support families, and how we can all give something back at the same time. Hi Adrian, welcome to Chaos.
Hi Tom, it's good to be here. Thanks for a great introduction.
Yeah, no problem at all. So for any listeners then who might be unaware, could you just introduce us to SANS and what kind of support you offer as well, please?
Absolutely. So SANS is the UK's leading pregnancy and baby loss charity, and we're here for everyone who has been through pregnancy or baby loss, whether that loss is recent or longer ago. And we are really a safe, understanding, caring community for anyone who needs us. And we're here to support everyone basically who's been touched by loss.
Now, we touched upon it just then, didn't we? The statistics around baby loss are absolutely heartbreaking, aren't they? What are some of the biggest challenges that families face, and how does SANS help them through it?
So yeah, as you say, this is sadly not a rare issue and affects thousands of parents and families every year. And as you say, every day, 13 babies die shortly before, during, or soon after birth. And there's also much uncertainty around the numbers and rates of pregnancy loss. So evidence suggests that at least 1 in 6 pregnancies end in miscarriage. Now, obviously, this is absolutely heartbreaking and is leaving a deep and lasting impact on everyone affected. The parents themselves, but also, their wider family and friends. In terms of challenges, in addition to obviously that emotional impact, which is not something that you are going to get better from. It's with you. It will be with you lifelong. It will change. Grief changes over time, but it's not something that's going to go away. And I think that's something that maybe for people who haven't been personally affected isn't something that's understood. It's not something that you're going to kind of get over and just move on from. But what you can, what we do help people to do is to what we call grow around their grief. So, there is life after loss, whether or not someone goes on to have another child, but there is still a life that you can grow around your grief. And really, a lot of our support is about helping people to rebuild their lives around that grief, but also to remember their babies in the way that's right for them. I think it's also worth saying that in terms of the care that's available in hospitals, that has got much better. In the past, at SANS, we hear from people who were longer ago bereaved, who sadly were not even allowed to see their baby if they were stillborn, let alone have a chance to make memories or even be involved sometimes in their funeral planning. So that kind of bereavement care has got better. That's in large part to the work of SANS, working with hospitals, working with the NHS to improve that. But we know that there's still, a long way to go, and that not everybody is getting that quality of care that they need. And also, you touched on there about, in terms of saving babies' lives is the other part of our work. So that is something where we're working to improve maternity care, maternity safety, to obviously reduce those numbers of babies dying.
It does have such an incredible impact, doesn't it, on so many different people, the parents, the families, the friends as well. And it was really interesting to see that you offer support not just for parents or but for wider family and friends too. Can you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's really important that we, it isn't only about the parents, because one of the things that parents do tell us is that when no one talks to them about their loss, it can leave them feeling really isolated and lonely. So it's really important that friends and family members are also that they can turn to SANS to talk about how they're feeling, but also to get advice on what they can do to support the parents themselves, and how to start conversations, how to offer practical help as well. Even just something as simple as saying, would you like me to do some shopping for you? Would you like me to, I can cook a meal for you, but also just saying, I'm here to talk to you about this if you want to, but equally, if you just need some time on your own, that's fine as well. And I think just knowing, just saying, I'm so sorry this has happened, I'm here for you if you want to talk about it, that can make a really big difference. So yeah, we've got a lot of free resources for partners, for siblings, for grandparents, wider family and friends, and we really just want to help everybody in society really feel confident and comfortable to have these conversations about pregnancy and baby loss. And then in doing that, we develop more compassionate communities.
Absolutely. Another large part of your work is with healthcare professionals, isn't it? What kind of training or resources do you provide to improve bereavement care?
Absolutely, yeah. So, by listening to parents from all kinds of different backgrounds, that is how we all learn together to improve the support. And really, it's about providing healthcare professionals with the training, with the tools and support they need to provide excellent bereavement care. So our training is equipping them with skills and knowledge. It's about being compassionate, about helping parents make informed decisions about what's right for them and their baby, and giving them privacy and a safe space when they've received bad news. We're leading the way actually in setting the standards for high quality bereavement care. We've been leading the national bereavement care pathway across the UK and helping hospitals embed and use these standards every day. And we also have an amazing network of hospital liaison volunteers who are our kind of link with healthcare professionals and SANS, and also linking up with local SANS groups and parents and families. So it's really about that, linking all the different parts of the community together to make sure that bereaved parents can get that compassionate support and that they're getting the right care.
Absolutely. What kind of impact then have you seen as SANS had through its campaigning and research? Are you seeing those positive changes?
We are. I mean, I think it's worth saying that often, the reasons for pregnancy and baby loss isn't fully understood. And that's obviously that lack of understanding. It can make it harder to prevent future deaths. It doesn't have to be that way. And absolutely, we believe that listening to parents saves lives. So a large part of our work is ensuring that parents' voices are heard and understood by decision makers in government and in the NHS, and that their experiences when things have gone wrong are helping to improve safety in maternity care and in neonatal care and saving more babies' lives. So we're basically putting bereaved parents' experiences at the heart of research. So that's helping academics and clinicians understanding why babies die and how they can improve maternity care. So through this amplification of the voices of bereaved parents, we are seeing progress. So just as an example, in 2018, 15 babies were dying every day in the UK before, during or shortly after birth. And now, as you say, that has reduced to 13. It's still too many. Obviously, it's still too high. And that's really what drives us all at SANS, to keep doing everything we can. So in the future, families have got a different story to tell. So also, I think it's really powerful seeing that, we're reaching more people, we're breaking the silence, we're tackling the stigma and taboos around pregnancy and baby loss. And for example, in the last year alone, almost 800,000 people accessed our pregnancy and baby loss support and safer pregnancy advice. So that's really good to see as well, that this is just something that is being talked about much more openly.
That's a huge number, isn't it? That's almost 1 million people accessing. It just shows, doesn't it, the depth of this these situations and how many people are affected. Let's move it on a little bit to how we can support you. How can people in Cornwall and beyond support SANS, whether they've been personally affected or they just want to get behind the cause?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, we're here for everyone in Cornwall and across the UK, and we really do rely on local communities to both be there as volunteers, as volunteer befrienders for our SANS support groups. We've got a group in Cornwall SANS. They're on Facebook, and you can also contact them at cornwall@sansvolunteer.org.uk. Donations and fundraising is absolutely what keeps SANS going. So we there are lots of different ways people can support, and I think that it could be that there's local running events, walking. We've got all kinds of fundraising going on, and I think the best thing that people can do is probably just go to our website sans.org.uk and take a look at all the different fundraising activities and find something that's right for them.
Absolutely. There's one which is running 50k in September. I'm happy to say that I'm halfway through that now, and through some excellent family and friends who I'm really grateful for have raised a very nice sum of money, which will be donated at the end of the month to SANS in support of the absolutely incredible work that you do. It's the very, very least I could do, and it wasn't the longest running challenge on there either. This one felt a bit more practical for me, just a 50k.
It's so long way to
yeah, absolutely. And a major landmark in your calendar each year is Baby Loss Awareness Week, isn't it? What can you tell us about that, Adrian?
Absolutely. So Baby Loss Awareness Week runs from the 9th to the 15th of October every year. And this is a time for everyone in the baby loss community and beyond to come together to remember their babies and also raise awareness of pregnancy and baby loss. So for SANS, this is really important to us because we lead the Baby Loss Awareness Alliance, and there's over 130 charities and organisations taking part and giving their support to that now. And one of the big things during the week are ribbon displays, which are these really wonderful pink and blue ribbon displays that people put up in their communities, and they also have buildings lighting up pink and blue during the week. So if you see anything like that happening around your community, that's why. And you can also organise a ribbon display yourselves if you'd like to do that. There are all kinds of variations, from paper displays in shop windows to ribbons hung on trees. And if you go to sans.org.uk, Baby Loss Awareness Week, you should be able to register your interest to take part in a ribbon display. And the other big event we've got going on this year for SANS is Ribbon Run, which is, as it says on the tin, is a running event. We've got a run taking place, a live event in Manchester, but also we've got virtual ribbon runs, if you like, taking place across the country. So if you go to sans.org.uk/ribbon run, you can find out how to take part in that as well.
Just finally, before you go, you touched upon it there. Can you just remind our listeners where they can find out more information or get in touch with yourselves, whether they're seeking support or looking to give it, perhaps?
Absolutely. So if anyone needs support right now or at any point in the future, they can call our helpline. That is 0808 164 332, or they can email helpline@sans.org.uk. And the best place to go for any other kind of support and all our free resources, and obviously, as you say, to sign up for fundraising to support our work, that is sans.org.uk.
Wonderful. Thank you to Adrian Brown there from SANS, the UK's leading pregnancy and baby loss charity. If you or someone you know has been affected, please know support is available. Whether your loss was recent or maybe many years ago, you can find out more, access support, or get involved by visiting sans.org. And remember, if you missed any parts of that interview, just know you can catch up anytime by visiting the catch up section at chaos.radio.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, if you're a runner or even just a fan of a good pasty and a challenge, you'll know all about the Eden Marathon and Half Marathon. It's Cornwall's biggest running event, and this year marks a major milestone as it celebrates its 15th edition on Sunday, the 19th of October. With runners coming from across the UK and beyond, it is a true bucket list race. And one local club that's been there from the very start is St Austell Running Club. Joining us now is Doug Alsop, race director and club committee member, to tell us more. Doug, hello, welcome to Chaos.
Good morning, Tom. Welcome. Yes.
Doug, for those who might not know, what makes the Eden Marathon and Half Marathon such special events in the running calendar?
I think the Eden aspect cannot be denied. Obviously, people know Eden from all over the nation, and it's quite an iconic place. And luckily, it finishes right in the middle of that iconic place. And the view as the runners descend into the pit is just brilliant to see the biomes and the crowd welling up from the quarry there. Amazing.
I do the park run on a Saturday morning at Eden, so I scratch the surface of the distance that some of your runners will be taking on the 19th. But this is the 15th year of this particular event, isn't it? How's it grown or changed since it first began?
Well, it started out, we started the running club in 2007, and we had the idea that as the running club was very successful quite early on, and we attracted a lot of members. And as we were running round doing our training runs on the weekend, we were using the clay trails, and it occurred to us that it could be a suitable option to run an event and using that. But obviously to do that, we needed a car parking space or somewhere to put the marquee. And so initially we considered that we may be able to use an Eden car park, put a marquee up there and just run our event without really involving Eden. But luckily, when we went to speak to Eden about it, they were so enthusiastic, and they suggested that to extend it from beyond our thoughts of just a marathon to bring in a half marathon and to bring the whole event right into Eden, and Eden bought into the project. So in terms of numbers, it has remained fairly consistent from 2009, which was the first year, up until now. And the limiting factor on the numbers really is the nature of the course outside of Eden. There are some quite narrow areas, and we're in Cornish country lanes that we can't get road closure for. So the restriction really is the trails that we use. But that also makes it a little bit unique because it does traverse through some really interesting areas and showcases what we've got here in mid-Cornwall.
Now, I've spoken to a couple of people who've taken it on before, and there's two words that stuck with me. One was beautiful, the other was brutal. Can you just describe what runners can expect on the day?
Well, on the day, obviously, it is weather dependent because quite a lot of it is running through trails and through the Luxullian Valley and along the Drovers Trail. And we've had all sorts of weather in October because you just cannot really plan what you're going to get. So we've had torrential rain, we've had bright sunlight, we've had blustery winds. The very first year, when we planned the route and we were running over Coeliac Downs, we particularly took in places to say, oh, this is a tremendous view of St Austell Bay and we'll take the runners up there. Come the day, the mist was down and we could only see about 15 foot. So
oh no!
People were stumbling over Coeliac Downs without getting the benefit of the view. So really, it's there. But certainly in terms of the brutal aspect, yes, there are a lot of climbs, and for people who don't know this area, then there really is very little flat area to run in this area, and so it's just part and parcel of what happens here. But coming back onto that aspect of beauty, one year we had a couple come from Canada and they lived in Banff, and they particularly sought me out afterwards to tell me how beautiful they thought this area of mid Cornwall was.
Wow.
Now, if anyone's been to Banff in the middle of the Rockies, it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. And I had to ask them, what particularly attracted them. And of course, it was the heritage, the fact that they were running through these old stone villages and lovely old ruined areas like the Luxullian Valley, places with lots of history. And that really is the beauty that we're trying to showcase here. Yeah.
That's remarkable. Wow. Let's get an appreciation then of the scale we're looking at here. How many, it might be a rough number, but how many of your club members might be taking part this year, either running it or volunteering? I'm sure you've got a few people wearing the colours of St Austell Running Club and the bibs as well when they're volunteering on the side.
Yes, we will. I think personally, it's a whole club experience. I think the majority of the club will be involved in some way or other, unless they are away on holiday or not in the area. We have a number of people running it, and up to 100 marshals who will be out there on the course. And that's another aspect that it always gets mentioned in the social media after the event, that the people who ran it are so appreciative of the support they get from the marshals. So we like to pride our club as being one of the most supportive and enthusiastic set of marshals that are around. So yes, it's basically the whole club is committed to it, yes, and Eden, of course, is committed to the club as well, which is great.
Absolutely. Now, some of the money raised from the event will go towards the Eden Project and their environmental work, and many of the runners also fundraise for their own causes, don't they? How important is that community and charity aspect to the event?
It is. We don't particularly nominate a specific charity, but as you say, it's quite a challenge for people, and people can always generate some enthusiasm to support someone that's taken on a challenge such as this. And for some people, quite often, it is their first half marathon because they perhaps weren't a runner, and maybe they visited the Eden Project and they saw that the Eden Project offers a half marathon, and maybe that's something they would like to do. Eden, when you enter the event, Eden give access to your supporters to Eden for the day, which is quite a valuable asset. So people can say, I think one of the benefits here is if you hire a runner and your partner or whatever relationship you're in has to put up with you going off and running somewhere on a regular basis, the opportunity to say, well, I'd like to run Eden, but you'll get free entrance to Eden and you can spend the day wandering around Eden. That's quite an attractive little pull, which is very good.
That's a great trade-off. Yeah, indeed. We've seen everything from first-timers, as we talked about potentially there, to even celebrities taking part over the years. What's the atmosphere like on race day?
The atmosphere is great. I think I get the feedback from the staff at Eden, and obviously the staff at Eden really enjoy the day that the runners come to do the marathon, because runners generally are positive people. So they've turned up, they're a bit hyped up, ready to do the event, and so the atmosphere is buzzing before they start. They do the event, they come back in, and then there's a great thrill of the fact that they've achieved it. And so the atmosphere comes up. And I think the staff really enjoy the fact that, as opposed to having to deal with the general public for the other 360 odd days of the year, where people are perhaps making complaints or just, being people, they've suddenly got 1,000 or over 1,000 runners in there and their supporters who are really quite positive, buzzing people. So it's a great atmosphere generally, yes.
We're getting closer to the day, and I understand entries are now closed, but for those who've signed up, what's your advice for the final few weeks of prep? And for anyone thinking about taking it on next year, what would you say to encourage them?
Well, I think if they're local and they're thinking of it next year, go and watch and have a look and see what it's like. So that would be good. It's always good to start running. The biggest step is actually putting on the trainers and stepping out of the door. No matter what the neighbours say, what's that person doing, trying to get fit or anything else? But yes, and if they wanted to join the running club, then obviously we have we're capable of taking on people from really quite fast runners right the way down to absolute beginners from couch to 5K. And our run walk group is really successful in terms of bringing people in. With many people in the club who came along and watched, then marshalled, and then joined the club, started running, and have now run marathons themselves. So it's a good introduction to feel the atmosphere and to see that. For those that are already committed to it, obviously the last week you really can't do much apart from injure yourself before the event. So it's really a case of just being careful and not doing anything silly in the last week. There's really nothing you can do to improve your ability to run the marathon at the end of the week. But leading up to it, 2 weeks before should be about your latest long run. That should be your last long run, which will be next weekend. After that, then just take it easy and try not to get injured and just keep the nerves under control and look forward to the day. Yeah. On the day, don't start too fast. That is the biggest problem with everybody really, is when you have this atmosphere and the adrenaline's flowing, the music's pumping, everybody's up. I'm up there on the microphone shouting at them and winding them up. Then when the gun goes off, well, there is no gun, I blow a whistle. But when I blow the whistle, don't go off too fast. Just remember that you're taking on either 13 miles or 26 miles. And it's really all about being able to finish those last few miles in a reasonable state rather than staggering, as I have done in many events, unfortunately.
Oh, dear. Doug, thank you so much for having joined us here on Chaos Radio. I think it's really important before you go, can you just remind our listeners how they can first of all connect with St Austell Running Club, whether they want to kickstart their running journey or maybe give their time as volunteers in the future as well, please?
Well, certainly we're available on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We meet at the rugby club, St Austell Rugby Club, 6:30 on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and on Monday nights. But Monday nights is the run walk for absolute beginners. But if they contact us via the Facebook page, then someone will put them in touch with who to contact and where to come. And we run in ability groups, so even on a club night, there will be people broken down and led by trained leaders who will take them out and make sure that they run on a safe route and count everybody out and count everybody back, basically. So yes, we particularly our aim really is to bring as many people into running as possible and to make it available to all people of all ages and all abilities. Just like to say a big thank you to all the people on the course, because they also contribute. They offer their premises for drink stations and water stations and people in the remote villages. And some of the places we run through, they probably, apart from the postie and maybe local neighbours, they don't see many people at all. And then suddenly on one day, they see over 1,000 people running by their property. And yes, it's a bit of an imposition, or could be, but they enjoy it. And a big thank you to the local community through which the event runs.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That was Doug Alsop there from St Austell Running Club talking about the 15th Eden Marathon and Half Marathon taking place on Sunday 19th of October. You can find out more and reach out to the teams involved by visiting edenproject.com as well as staustellrunningclub.co.uk. Chaos Radio will be there on the day, soaking up the atmosphere and getting involved in the volunteering too. So do give us a wave or stop for a chat as you come past. We'll be cheering you on.
NEWSWAVE.
Okay, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of NEWSWAVE. A big Chaos Radio thank you to Coeliac UK volunteers Jason and Gwen Bradby, Simon Perry of the Roseland Environment Action Community Team, Adrian Brown from SANS, and to Doug Alsop of St Austell Running Club. And as ever, a final thank you to you for listening and helping support local journalism to thrive. To catch up on all our coverage, as well as to check out our extensive back catalogue of interviews and shows, head on over to chaos.radio. Now remember, if you have a local news story that you'd like to share with us, email news@chaos.radio or search Chaos Radio UK across socials. That's it. You're up to date here on Chaos. I'm Tom Howe. Thank you so much for joining me. Whatever you're doing this week, be sure to keep it chaos.
NEWSWAVE.
Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.